SmackDown just went off the air in Toronto, and somewhere backstage, Kevin Owens is still shaking with rage. If you think he just iced his jaw and went back to the hotel after his own best friend cost him the title in his own home country, you don't know KO. This man has never once let something like this go quietly, not in his entire career. Hey, welcome back to WWE Galaxy, I'm Nova. I'm not spending this video walking you through the whole match. You watched it, you know what happened. What I want to get into is what happens now, because this doesn't read like a story that ends with Owens politely asking Nick Aldis for a rematch next week. This reads like a hunt, and that matters more with these two specifically than it would with almost anybody else on the roster. Owens and Zayn have been tied together for the better part of a decade, on and off, best friends one year and bitter rivals the next. That history is exactly what makes tonight sting the way it does. This wasn't a random attack from a stranger, the kind you shake off by the next commercial break. It was the one person Owens trusted completely, in front of the one crowd that's followed his career the longest. Let's start with why WWE did this in Toronto specifically, because the location isn't an accident. This is Owens' home country, Scotiabank Arena, a building full of people who've watched him for years before he ever got to WWE. Doing this in Canada doesn't get you normal boos. It gets you something uglier, a crowd that actually feels betrayed alongside him instead of just reacting to a wrestling finish. And that's exactly what happened. Sami Zayn ran in from the crowd, went after CM Punk. And when Owens refused to use the title belt as a weapon because he wanted this win clean, Zayn grabbed it and smashed him in the face with it instead. Punk got up and finished the job. Look at what that actually does to Sami Zayn's character. WWE has spent years building him as the guy fans root for no matter how many times life kicks him down. Tonight, they stripped that away in front of his own best friend, in the one country where turning on Owens was guaranteed to hurt the most. That's not an accident either. That's WWE rebuilding Sami into something bitter and unhinged instead of lovable. Think about how much harder this hits than if it happened in some random city on a random Tuesday. Owens grew up watching wrestling in Canada, built his whole career on that hometown connection, and every step of that journey led back to nights exactly like this one. WWE let his own best friend turn on him standing on that exact soil, in front of the exact crowd that's followed him since before he ever set foot in a WWE ring. Every camera cut to the crowd tonight was doing storytelling work, not just filling airtime. Worth pointing out too, CM Punk didn't ask for any of this and ended up the guy walking away happiest. He got jumped, got thrown into the ring post, took a title shot with zero help from Sami's chaos actually needed, and still left Toronto as champion. Sometimes the safest place to stand in a feud between two other guys is directly in the middle of it, getting hit by accident, while somebody else does all the emotional damage. Think about how this actually lands on the rest of the SmackDown locker room too. Every guy backstage watched two of the most respected veterans on the roster turn a night about the championship into something personal and ugly. That's a warning shot to everyone else in that building. Loyalty doesn't mean anything the second pride gets involved, and if it can happen to a friendship this strong, nobody in that locker room is fully safe from the same thing happening to them. Quick break before I keep going. If you're new here, get subscribed, and if you're into this kind of breakdown, drop a like. It tells me to keep making these. Okay, back into it. Now let's get into why Sami actually did this, because it's not as simple as jealousy. Backstage earlier in the night, Sami was reportedly venting to Nick Aldis about losing his own title 2 months ago. He's frustrated, he feels like his career stalled the second he lost that belt, and now he's watching Owens get handed a title shot in his first match back from neck surgery. A surgery serious enough that plenty of people wondered if Owens would ever wrestle at this level again. To Sami, that feels less like bad luck and more like the universe rubbing it in. And then Owens made it worse without even realizing it. When he refused to use that belt on Punk, he thought he was doing the honorable thing, wanting the win clean instead of walking away with an asterisk on it. To Sami, watching from the crowd, that read completely differently. It looked like Owens caring more about his own pride than about actually beating the man who took Sami's title away from him in the first place. That's actually the part that explains the timing here better than anything else. This wasn't planned out over weeks. Sami snapped in the moment, watching his best friend hesitate with the title literally in his hands, and made a decision out of pure frustration instead of strategy. He convinced himself Owens was choosing ego over loyalty, and once that thought took hold, Hitting him with the belt probably felt less like betrayal and more like Sami finally doing something instead of standing on the sidelines watching his career stall. So what actually happens next? I want to be upfront, this part is me predicting, not reporting anything confirmed. My guess is Owens doesn't wait around for a sanctioned match. He shows up on SmackDown looking for Sami directly, and he doesn't care who's in the ring when he gets there. Picture him walking through security, interrupting whatever match is happening, refusing to leave until Aldis gives him what he wants. If that's how it plays out, Aldis is going to have a real problem on his hands. You can't control a guy who isn't following the rulebook anymore, and Owens has never exactly been a rules guy to begin with. Picture Aldis trying to run a normal show while Owens keeps showing up uninvited, week after week, turning every segment into a hunt, instead of letting the card play out the way it's supposed to. At some point, Aldis stops being able to treat this like a scheduling problem. My bet is this ends with him forced into something outside the normal format, a steel cage or an unsanctioned match, just to keep the rest of the roster from getting caught in the crossfire the way Punk almost did tonight. And Sami isn't likely to just take it either. If Owens really does come hunting, expect Sami to fight back instead of running, which is exactly what turns this from a one-sided beatdown into an actual program worth watching for months. Neither one of these guys backs down from a fight. That's basically the entire reason they were friends in the first place, and it's exactly why this doesn't stay one-sided for long. Sami might even lean into it, daring Owens to come find him instead of hiding, because the version of Sami we saw tonight didn't look like a guy who's scared of consequences anymore. Zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture, why WWE is starting this fight right now instead of saving it for later. The next premium live event is Money in the Bank on October 10th, and SmackDown needs something to carry it through the fall that isn't just about a championship. A grudge match between two guys who used to be best friends does exactly that, and it doesn't need a title attached to feel important. The personal history alone carries it. My guess is this doesn't get resolved quietly either. Feuds built on real friendship falling apart almost never end with one match and a handshake, because the story is more valuable stretched out than settled fast. Picture it building past Money in the Bank into a brawl that spills into Survivor Series, cooling off just enough to look finished, then boiling back over heading into the Royal Rumble in January. Every time it looks like these two might actually shake hands and move on, something small drags them right back into it. Because that's how you keep a feud like this alive for months, instead of burning it off in 6 weeks. If WWE really is building this out that far, all the way from Toronto to the spring, you have to wonder where it actually ends. Does a friendship this broken only get settled with a normal match at all? Or does it need something bigger? A loser leaves SmackDown stipulation at WrestleMania, the kind of match where one of them has to actually lose everything for it to feel finished. Let me know what you think happens in the comments. I read every single one. This is one of those stories where the wait for the next episode actually matters. Subscribe to see how this actually plays out, tap that like button, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Nova, WWE Galaxy, out.